Hello everyone, and thank you once again for being here for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Percy. On the first graphic, hazardous weather, quite a windy day going on up there today along the Arctic coast, actually from the western Brooks Range area on down to the Chukchi Sea eastward. And there's winter weather advisories continue out. The ones out currently end here shortly from St. Lawrence Island up to the northwest coast, but they remain out through tonight here on the western Arctic coast. One system moving by currently, and we've got another one coming up, not quite as strong as this last one, but yet another one coming up that'll keep the winds, snow, rain or snow mixed going through tonight, and remains out on the central Arctic coast until roughly noon tomorrow. And as you head down the east side here, that winter weather advisory stays out until 7 p.m. Sunday evening. So it'll be improving from west to east, but definitely conditions will be on the upswing here over the next day and day and a half. On satellite imagery, you can see pretty good, well, you can't see the low center, but you can see the cloud associated with the frontal boundary here. Right along the Arctic coast there, the front right on the central coast, south of the front, allowed temperatures to rise into the mid-30s up there along the coast with a mixture of rain and snow mixed here occurring along the Arctic coast, even back into the northwest interior areas, with winds gusting anywhere from 35 to 50 miles an hour, even higher winds here over the western interior into the southwestern north slope areas of up to 65 miles an hour, 50 to 65 miles an hour in some locations there. Of course, Cape Lisburne, one of the normally windier areas in this weather pattern, they had peak wind gusts of about 62 miles per hour today. But improving, really improving here for St. Lawrence Island, VFR, reporting clear skies. There's some higher level clouds there, but pretty nice conditions there. Areas of fog here forming along the south side of the Seward Peninsula up into the Bering Strait with that light wind condition, and clear skies here off the southwest coast eastward across southern Alaska, right into the Copper River Basin. Another partly to mostly sunny day there for the Panhandle. And then you have these remnant clouds here passing by mostly north of the Tanana Valley. Looks like right along the Yukon River there. Some wisps of clouds getting down to the White Mountains, but generally dry, not too bad up here in the central interior as well. And nice day, Kodiak Island. There are some showers coming up from the southeast here, bringing areas of light rain today to Chignik and Sand Point. Precipitation amounts everywhere were quite light. Up on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, they had picked up about 0.2 of an inch of water equivalent precipitation. Again, that falling both in form of rain or snow in some areas up there. But everywhere else had really light amounts, under 1/10 of an inch, just a few hundredths, or mostly nothing at all. Anyway, that rainfall here will be on the increase. That's due to an upper level low that was seen south of Kodiak Island yesterday and brought some scattered showers to that area. That's dropped a little to the south, and now it's pulling back to the northwest, caught up in the flow that's circulating around this big high pressure area centered over interior Alaska. Another 1,034 millibar center out there in the Gulf. So really light wind conditions across the Gulf here. That's conducive to a lot of low clouds and fog forming, but we've got a little bit of that out there, mostly staying south of the North Gulf coast and mostly off the southeast coast. Earlier today, you had dense fog advisories over the southern inside water areas for fog that formed overnight, and that same pattern could happen again tonight possibly. Otherwise, again, this area light rain will increase tonight over the Alaska Peninsula, mostly on the south side, nothing heavy as that system crosses. And then we have this frontal boundary here with the tight gradient associated with it, and that one low center tracking in toward Banks Island this afternoon. Back to the west, another one tracking eastward. And then that front extends all the way down to yet another wave here pulling north, and that bringing just persistent light rain and fog the entire day to the Adak-Atka area, and tight enough gradient, strong enough to keep gale force winds in the central Aleutians through tonight. Northern portion not quite so strong. Parent low way back there kind of keeps pulling off to the west-northwest. You can see some clearing here on the lee side of the Aleutian Range, eastern Aleutians, and clear skies all the way off the southwest coast, well west of Nunivak Island, extending northward there all along the Yukon Delta coast. We have some clearing almost reaching the Pribilofs, not quite, back into Bristol Bay, and mostly sunny. Light winds, southern Alaska, clearing out Kodiak Island, all the way over toward the eastern Copper River Basin. Start picking up a few clouds here east of the border there, or north of the border. Generally nice conditions here all along the southeast coast. Forecast for tonight, again, this frontal boundary remains in place. That system pulls off, so the winds are going to be coming down all along in the entire area here tonight, but yet another wave scooting up to the northeast there, coming around the high and heading eastward in that strong westerly flow aloft. That's going to kick the conditions up again. That's why the winter weather advisories are out through tonight, and that'll take until tomorrow afternoon, early evening, to end on the east side. Otherwise, high pressure, dry conditions, low clouds, or mostly patchy fog could form anywhere here over the central and southern interior valleys, Cook Inlet, maybe Prince William Sound. Definitely in the Gulf of Alaska here with no wind and just high pressure. And then again, you can see some fog possibly in areas of the Panhandle or low clouds, but that should burn off quite quickly tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning. And then this upper level disturbance now starting to track up to the northwest, and as I mentioned, that'll bring increasing showers or continue them mostly on the south side, but that's going to start spilling over. And this high keeping systems out to the west here, directing them up to the north and northwest. That keeps rain going. Again, gale warnings out tonight for the central Aleutians, especially Adak. Winds gusts possibly 40, 50 miles an hour with continued light rain. Picked about a third of an inch in a 12-hour period today. May pick up another third of an inch. Otherwise, maybe some clearing for the Pribilofs, and winds not too bad. Then moving on to tomorrow, you can see this frontal boundary still hanging up along the Arctic coast. There are a chance of flurries here on the west side, areas of light snow, fog all the way to the east, hanging on to that blowing snow condition on the east side there, at least through the afternoon. But you can see gradient is gone, so really light winds coming into the west side tomorrow with still fair skies, maybe some sun. St. Lawrence Island, definitely light winds, areas of fog into the Bering Strait, sunshine again over interior Alaska with no wind at all here, and a lot lighter winds up along the Brooks Range. Still pretty gusty, still good westerly flow aloft higher, but at the surface really dropping off. And enough gradient here over the northern Panhandle to keep those small craft advisories in northern Lynn Canal. Otherwise, offshore flow keep those low clouds out to the west. Sunshine, Kodiak Island. And then for Monday, that upper trough scoots up. Now it picks up a little speed, brings some shower chances into St. Lawrence Island, grazing the Yukon Delta coast, and to maybe a little more extent, Nunivak Island. But to the south of that, no change, mostly cloudy, some breaks, kind of an increasing southeast wind, and that southeast flow keeping a chance of moisture along the Alaska Peninsula. Sunshine, light winds over interior Alaska. That's trying to extend all the way up to the western Arctic coast, or actually it is. This front, lingering front, actually it's a very well-defined frontal boundary there, a good gradient associated with it, but that's going to keep a chance of light snow in over toward Kaktovik and Barter Island. And no change for the southeast coast, sunshine, light winds, and tighter gradient here, so maybe the gales return to the central Aleutians. And for lows tonight, teens and 20s over the central eastern interior, teens to upper 20s there for the Arctic coast with that wave and keeping the Arctic front to the north, and 30s out west. Highs for tomorrow, 55 to 63 for the Panhandle, 20s to lower 30s for the Arctic coast, and 40s to mid-50s over the interior, including south central Alaska. Highs or lows the following morning, single numbers to lower teens up north, so chilling off a little bit now from what you saw here this weekend for the for Monday morning. 25 to 30s Tanana Valley, upper 20s, lower 30s south central Alaska, 30s for the Panhandle, upper 30s in the Aleutians, highs 40s to near 60 in the south here, same for the Panhandle, chillier teens over the North Slope and Arctic coastal areas. While the central part of the state here, especially the Tanana Valley, could see temperatures well into the low, mid or maybe upper 50s.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
On to aviation forecasts. Big bad IFR out here with that frontal boundary out over the western Bering into the AKwx area, and another batch up here to the northeast, St. Lawrence Island, right up to the south coast of the Seward Peninsula, Bering Strait, on down to just west of Nunivak Island, VFR into Bristol Bay, and all of the interior here looking really good tomorrow morning. Some IFR still on the mainly the Central Arctic coast up there, VFR all the way down to the Queen Charlottes. And for the afternoon, no change, VFR into the Gulf of Alaska, southeast coast, from south to north here, Bristol Bay, Kenai Peninsula area, right up to the Arctic coast where it's marginal tomorrow, which is an improvement from today. And still IFR though on the northwest coast from about around the bend there from Cape Lisburne on down through the Bering Strait. Really no change up here over the northern Bering and right along and west of Nunivak Island and that bend hanging out there over the western Bering Sea. And then for Monday, again, not much movement out here except kind of dissipating in the southern portion, but actually surges, or appears to be another batch here and a regrouping of the IFR back to the southwest, but right up against western Seward Peninsula through the Bering Strait, back in along the Arctic coast with a weak frontal boundary. South of that, though, good VFR, high pressure holding another couple days here over the interior, on down the southeast coast. Still IFR now slipping on up on the east side of Kodiak Island. And for the afternoon, that dissipates out, burns off in the sun, so the island itself, away from the coast, should be pretty good. Otherwise, marginal VFR, VFR holding over Bristol Bay and the interior and the Panhandle and the Gulf of Alaska, and marginal for the North Slope, improving on the Arctic coast. Still IFR here, northern Bering Sea, and expanding IFR out over the western Bering, central Aleutians. And for passes, Anaktuvik starting out marginal VFR, possibly lowest conditions and improving. Definitely VFR by late morning into the afternoon. That same trend for Adigan as well. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR and rainy. Sea leads visibility is unlimited. Same forecast for windy. Tanita, or Isabel, VFR. Mentasta, VFR. Now Tanita, VFR. Either approach and through the pass, of course, and for Portage, VFR, looking good there. And Chilcoot and White, nothing but VFR. Freezing levels, upper level high, and the warm air aloft that was pulled northward here with those southerlies out over the Bering Sea for several days or longer. That's shifting eastward here with the ridge axis and kind of a gradient up there still along the, well, there is one along the Arctic coast there, and that's with those westerlies carrying those disturbances by, but the strongest one today should improve after that. And then we've got 4,000 feet down across the Kenai Peninsula into the northern Panhandle, and really about 4,000 across the entire southeast coast, and then 4,000 here nudged up to the central Aleutians. Icing frontal boundary out here, so it could be some areas of considerable moderate, otherwise mostly isolated moderate in the shaded area there, and just some isolated moderate or possibly mixed icing. Mostly moderate here, or mostly rime icing of the light variety above 4,000 feet. That's really a lot less of a threat than out here to the west. And possibility of some icing threats also up along the Arctic coast, but nothing too serious. Jet stream, there's that big upper level ridge right over the interior. This upper low south of Kodiak today is starting to slip northwestward there in the circulation around this high. And this high is going to start heading southeast a little bit there. But for tomorrow, that's going to put a southeast flow at about 50 knots in across the southwest part of the state. This 100-knot jet, 120-knot jet just clipping the Arctic coast there. And otherwise, good conditions over the interior on down the Panhandle. And 9,000 feet here, high pressure centered over the east central Alaska range. Light winds here across the southeast interior, picking up though 30 knots, Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula, and about 25 to 35 on out into the Bering. The real strong winds up here to the north, central Arctic coast, eastward, 40 to 60 knots up there. And coming around the ridge, about 15 to 20 for the Panhandle. And at 3,000 feet, much the same pattern here, a little different in the orientation, northwest or west-northwest, 30 to 45, maybe 50 knots, mainly eastern Arctic coast, 25 knotters in the northeast upper Yukon Valley. Light winds for the Panhandle, a little breezy here, southeast 25 to 35, out to the west, turbulence, moderate chop, North Slope Arctic coast and the Brooks Range.
On March 11, 2011, a 9.0 magnitude earthquake off the Pacific coast of Japan generated a tsunami. This series of ocean waves sped towards the island nation, with waves reaching 24 feet high. The result was devastation and utter destruction. Towns were engulfed by water and swept away. Farmland was flooded. Tens of thousands of lives were lost. The National Police Agency reported damages to hundreds of roads, bridges, and more than 100,000 buildings. The surging water flooded rivers and destroyed harbors. In some areas along the coast, tsunami waves reached 6 miles inland. Tsunamis not only cause severe damage when they first strike land, but also as the water recedes back to sea. Tsunamis can inflict this type of damage because of some unique features. As tsunami waves travel across ocean basins, they may be as little as a few centimeters high, but they extend down to the ocean floor. This is different than traditional waves, which are only surface features. Tsunamis can also travel hundreds of miles per hour in the open ocean. As these waves approach a coast, the shallowing ocean floor slows the waves down and pushes the water mass upwards. The quicker the ocean floor transitions from deep to shallow, the greater potential for a higher wave height. So, tsunamis that experience this sudden shift into shallow water can have the height and momentum to pack a serious punch. Unfortunately, Japan found itself in this scenario. This image shows how abruptly the Japanese islands rise out of the ocean. Other coastal areas in the region have much more gradual slopes. The earthquake on March 11th was the most powerful known to hit Japan, and the tsunami it created had the necessary ingredients to make it such a deadly and destructive force. "80 miles east of Japan, a 9.0 magnitude earthquake rocks the ocean floor. This disturbance causes a transfer of energy from the seafloor to the ocean, generating a series of ocean waves, known as a tsunami. In about 20 minutes, waves strike the Japanese coastline. Other nations go on high alert because the tsunami will propagate or spread throughout the Pacific Ocean. As the tsunami radiates outward from Japan, it encounters a variety of ocean features, such as ridges and underwater volcanoes, which guide the tsunami and create a complex pattern of scattering and reflective waves. In 8 hours, the waves reach the Hawaiian Islands, and in 9.5 hours, they hit the west coast of the United States. In 16 hours, the tsunami reaches the Indian Ocean and New Zealand, and by 22 hours, the entire Pacific Ocean had been affected. The impact of a tsunami can be highly variable because of the complicated interactions with ocean features and coastline elements. Wave height and speed will differ from place to place. Since tsunamis can be hundreds of miles long and travel thousands of miles away from where they originated, they are considered a worldwide threat when they form. These are the sounds of a tsunami warning. They alert residents that a killer wave is about to strike. These sirens, however, are just a small part of the sophisticated warning systems that played a role in Japan and in the US during the Pacific Ocean tsunami in March 2011. Most tsunamis are generated by an undersea earthquake. Fortunately, Japan has one of the most advanced earthquake early warning systems in the world. It detects tremors, calculates the epicenter, and sends out warnings from over 1,000 seismographs scattered throughout the country. The Japan Meteorological Agency issues the warnings and sends alerts to television and radio channels, the internet, and mobile phone networks. When the earthquake struck 80 miles offshore, warnings were generated in about 3 seconds. The tsunami warnings came 3 minutes later. These take longer because more complex calculations are involved and must factor in ocean data. Since the first tsunami wave struck the coastline within 20 minutes, the advanced warning provided some residents with crucial minutes to reach a safe area. While the earthquake sent powerful tsunami waves westward toward Japan, the tsunami also propagated east into the Pacific Ocean. Here, warnings are issued by the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, operated by NOAA in Hawaii. NOAA maintains a large network of buoys with ocean floor sensors that are strategically positioned in the earthquake-prone zones of the Pacific. This system collects vital ocean data for tsunami forecasting. On March 11th, only 25 minutes after the earthquake struck, the first buoy station measured the tsunami and relayed information to Hawaii. Scientists used this data to run models and issue forecasts and warnings to nations throughout the Pacific. From there, local emergency managers decided what actions were appropriate to take for public safety. The earthquake and resulting tsunami devastated the Japanese coastline, causing damage that will take years to repair. While we can't prevent these forces of nature from happening, our early warning systems can help us prepare for the dangers headed our way.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back to Sea Ice Analysis. Still a little bit south of St. Lawrence Island, but not much, and still thinning out once again here. Norton Sound, especially just out to the west there, and with the strong winds getting ice pulling off northern shores here, even on the western Arctic coast with those strong winds you had today. Winds will be coming down considerably tonight and tomorrow, and then Monday start turning more easterly here. So this northward and westward retreat should slow down considerably over the next few days. And for the winds along the southeast coast, pretty light, north 15 all along the coast tomorrow. Seas not bad, 4 to 7 feet. Northwest 10, clear and straight. And then 15 knots for Stevens Passage. Small craft advisories up there in northern Lynn Canal with 5-foot seas. Those come down to 15 knots on Monday, and just north to northwest, 5 to 15 knot winds, central southern inside waters, north 15 here along the south coast, northwest 15 north coast, with seas 4 to 6 feet. And Prince William Sound, light westerlies are kind of a variable wind pattern tomorrow actually here, not only for the Prince William Sound, but the North Gulf Coast. Variable 10 knots covers it for both those zones. More northeasterly though, but still light. Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, 10 knots. Seas running 2 feet here in those areas. Cook Inlet northeast at 10 with 2 to 3 foot seas. And for Monday, north 10. Light winds continue. Cook Inlet, 2-foot seas. Light west breeze there for Kamishak Bay. Pick it up to 15 knots, a little bit more of a breeze there for the Barren Islands and the North Gulf Coast, all becoming westerly at about 15. Prince William Sound west at 10. And for Kodiak Island, northeast 15 for Shelikof Strait. Otherwise, winds there east 15, 5-foot seas. And Sitkinak 2, Cape Sarachev, east winds 25 knots, seas 8 feet. And north side of the peninsula into Bristol Bay, east at 20 with 4 to 6 foot seas. And then on Monday, winds increase here. Small craft advisories come back and return to the Alaska Peninsula. East winds 25 to 30 knots and 20 knots for Bristol Bay. Light easterlies at 10 knots for Kodiak. And for the Fox Islands, east 25 to maybe 30 knots, mostly 25, seas running 6 to 13 feet. Central Aleutians, east at 30, 12 to 17 foot seas. Turn southeast here until you get to about Kiska Island. Then they become variable, swinging around to the west at 15 for Shimianat 2. Then back to the east on Monday, coming back up all areas. East 30 knots out there, 25, and then back to easterlies at 30 knots, almost but not quite reaching gale force. Right now, it looks like just 30 knots will cover it pretty well. And east winds 30 knots all the way back toward almost to False Pass. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, east 20 knots and that right on out to St. Matthew Island. Same thing for the Pribilofs, east at 20. Pretty light winds here up to the north now. St. Lawrence Island, 15 from the southeast, and even lighter there for Norton Sound. Outlook for Monday, east 10 for Norton Sound, bring it up to 20. Can't have it too light for too long up there for St. Lawrence Island. No change here along the southwest coast, east at 20. No change to the Pribilofs or for St. Matthew Island. And up to the Arctic coast, we've got east winds holding through the day at 30 knots there. So brisk wind advisories continue, but dropping off. You get to the central coast, west at 20. And I'd say 20 knots or less here for the west side, especially when you get down into the Chukchi Sea, kind of a variable condition down to 15 knots. And then for Monday, swinging around to the east from Wales up to Cape Thompson, 10 knots. Cape Thompson to north and northwest, east here. Speeds are about 15 knots with a northeast direction on the western coast, northwest 15 for the central coast, and those westerlies definitely coming down probably tomorrow night and then throughout the day Monday, 15 to 20 knots. And for tonight over the interior, good high pressure, 1,040 millibars over there near Dawson, 1,036 here near Galena. And from the central interior south, that's going to make for mostly clear skies. Look for some patchy fog, but due to light winds, more of that in the Gulf of Alaska, and some of that could sneak into the Panhandle again, and maybe even Kodiak. Showers of this disturbance coming northward tomorrow, will come northwestward, but this front and conditions starting to weaken on the Arctic coast late tonight. Just a weak boundary there, some light snow tomorrow. Winds holding through the day, though, on the east side for winter weather advisory. High pressure, sunshine, light winds in the interior, right on down the southeast coast. And this upper disturbance spraying some moisture and spilling it into the southeast Bering. That's going to keep this front to the west or south, and that scoots up to St. Lawrence Island on Monday. No change in the interior. Continued improvement on the Arctic coast.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.